We're back, and I hope you liked that, and that made you think. I came across the information that Hitler used the lack of cooperation amongst the other countries as a justification for his final solution. No one wants the Jews, we're going to have to take care of them ourselves. So I think that information makes it apparent that we have a great responsibility when people are being persecuted to help them out. We don't want another really bad situation, another final solution for the drug crisis to come about. And we have yet another example of Americans coming to Canada to get freedom and escape persecution and brutal conditions with the Vietnam War resistors and draft dodgers. They were basically, again, escaping another racket of greedy, privileged elites who were making money off war and persecution, this time in Vietnam, and to get the oil resources and to prevent communism or national economies from spreading, whatever slant you want to put on that. Anyway, they were dropping napalm on people and dropping horrible bombs on people as early as 1962, and the number of dead kept appearing on American television screens. So, on that topic, we have a couple of clips for you about how bad things were getting in Vietnam, and we have an interview with an organizer, Mac Elrod, who was a member of the Unitarian Church, and with other church-going people, he organized draft dodgers and war resistors entry and safe house and orientation once they got to Canada. So that's coming up for you now.
Levels continue to rise. Though some men fled the country to avoid service, most complied with the draft. Some who opposed conscription on grounds of conscience burned their draft cards. Some joined an anti-draft organization called the Resistance.
The Resistance was founded in an attempt to organize explicit public non-cooperation with conscription through the action of returning draft cards to the government. Very simple, open, public declarations that we would not cooperate, and if the government intended to enforce the Selective Service Act, then it was going to have to send us to jail. Well, October 16th had been the date that we had set when we first started the resistance for the first national draft card return, during which all around the country, and as it turned out in 18 different cities, there would be demonstrations at which young people would collect draft cards and give them to the federal government. And in San Francisco, which was one of the two largest demonstrations on that date in the country, 2,000 of us gathered on the steps of the federal building in San Francisco.
And that if it takes our lives to change this country, then that's what's going to happen.
And then we got this basket and announced on the bullhorn, okay, the time had come, and out goes the basket. There's this scene of all these hands coming up holding draft cards, dropping them into the basket, and the basket circulates through the crowd and comes back up to the front. You know, we sort of look at it and get ready to go inside, and then all of a sudden from the back of the crowd, these shouts start coming, more, back here, we want it, it's in the basket, you know, and so the basket goes back out and more draft cards start coming into it, and the situation was building on itself, you know, and while I was going back out for the third time, Cecil Poole, who was the federal attorney for San Francisco, came out on the front steps to watch what was going on. And then Dickie Harris, who was his black resistant from Berkeley, seized the moment, as it were, took the basket of draft cards and walks over to Poole and says, "Brother Poole, you head nigger here," and dumps this entire basket full of draft cards on Poole. It was an attempt to call the question on the rest of the anti-war movement, to say put up or shut up, no more of this screaming against the war and then coming home and making sure you have your student deferment in your pocket. If you were going to be against the war, then put your body where your mouth was.
Batch of questions, sir, on the question of draft evaders. What is the attitude of your government in regard to Americans who travel to Canada to evade the draft? Has their entry noticeably affected the philosophy or the politics of Canadian youth? And is there a limit to the number you will admit?
Well, when the question is restricted to draft dodgers, the answer is a very simple one. the status of being a draft dodger doesn't enter at all into our immigration policy. You can have your draft card in your pocket. If you're dodging the draft, you're not even asked about it, and you are admitted at the Canadian border. It is an irrelevant question from the point of view of our policy, and because it is not a relevant question, we don't have statistics on it. We don't know how many draft dodgers have been admitted to Canada and have stayed there. I believe it's a policy which is similar to that practiced by the United States as regards draft dodgers. We do know that a number of Americans come to Canada to evade the draft. We also know that a number, perhaps a superior number of Canadians come to the United States to join the United States Army, and there may be some saw-off in that, though, as I say, we don't have statistics. Some of them are even fighting in Vietnam. What effect these draft dodgers have on our students is a question which, of course, I am no more informed than you might be, sir. Their presence has been felt. They have aroused a great deal of sympathy on the Canadian campuses. By and large, they have proved to be good students, orderly students, and much of their attitude, I believe, is dictated by reasons of conscience rather than by any desire to upset a particular order of things. If the question were to go on and ask about deserters, I might be in a more delicate situation. Our policy as to deserters is not as clear as that regarding draft evaders. In general, we do have statistics on this, and in general, Canadian policy has been, shall we say, a little less free towards draft evaders, deserters than to draft evaders, on the basis that immigration does consider whether a prospective immigrant has any moral or legal commitment in the country of origin, and this applies, of course, not only to American immigrants but to immigrants from all countries. We do have statistics on this. I believe that we admitted 56 deserters in Canada last year, and this, as you see, is a very small number. There may be others in Canada, but who have not asked for immigrant status, and therefore on which we can't report.